It's okay. 3, 2, 1.
Where's the stylist? I wasn't even fucking ready.
You gotta be ready for all of them.
Oh my god.
So this podcast will just be Chris and I. Hey.
Wait, this has never happened.
Welcome back to the Decent Human Podcast. I'm Evan.
I am Jenny.
I'm Chris.
There you go. That's a little bit better.
Remember we recently shot one where we got it perfect, and then here we are again.
Yeah, no, we're back to square one.
Yeah.
You missed a clap. You're still
intro.
here. And
We fucked up the intro.
Still here. Sorry. Sorry, guys. I just decided to show up today. I'm still here.
yeah, it's okay. You know,
Last time I said it, I wasn't going to show up, and now I'm back, and sorry.
Just goes to show you, one time does not mean you're going to get it right every time.
no, it doesn't. And that's okay, because critique will happen in your life and in your career and on this podcast. But that honestly brings to me, I can't talk today.
Here, take some more. There you go. Just for regroup.
Regrouping.
Regroup, yeah.
But that honestly makes me think about something that I deal with on a daily basis and what I'm sure most of us deal on a daily basis, and that's critique and criticism. And whether that's in work and in life, I'm sure we've all dealt with that in our own ways. Am I right?
Do you get more critiques than criticism, or more criticism than critique?
I guess,
I want you to define the difference between critiques and criticism.
That's a
Critique
good
is
point.
a compliment. It's a
Critique is not necessarily a compliment, but it's
It's not really-
received less negatively, I think, than a criticism. But they're both points of like, you should fix this, or like,
Adjustments.
they're both technically like telling you that this isn't right. I think it just depends on how you look at what you're receiving.
Is critique the same as constructive criticism?
Ooh, those are okay. We've got criticism, critique, and constructive
Criticism.
Okay,
I don't know.
are they all the same thing?
I don't know. I'm asking you guys. Chris, I know that you're out there on your surfboard thinking about these kind of things, contemplating life, thinking about this exact question.
It's a little bit deeper than that, but yeah.
This is pretty deep.
This is more deep than what you're thinking out
No, I
there?
was thinking out there. Like,
Oh, you're thinking more deep?
Yeah.
So then this should be a piece of cake. So hit me with it. What's the difference between all three?
Criticism. Okay, criticism is when you get criticized, right?
I forgot the term, but there is a term for defining a word with the word itself. I forgot the term, but that's exactly what just happened, and you didn't even mean to do it.
Yes, I did. I knew where I was going.
I feel like you did it on purpose. I thought he did.
Okay, we'll give him.
Whatever.
We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Continue. Criticism is being criticized. Got it.
Yeah, so criticism is when you're criticized.
I would say criticism is something that's received a little bit negatively. It's like telling you should fix something, you need to do this better. Like it's the intent behind what's being said is probably a little bit more negative than a critique.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think criticism is more negative and usually uncalled for, or it wasn't something that was asked by the person. This is just you're being criticized.
Yeah.
Whether it's something you did, how you're portraying, whatever it might be, but a little bit more negative. And then a critique, I feel like it's a welcomed adjustment to what was,
or at least
being
the
judged.
intent behind it. So everything for me is like intent. Like if I'm giving you a critique, it's because we've worked on something and I need something fixed or adjusted, but I'm not telling you in a negative way. I'm
like that.
saying because we're like working together on it.
Yep.
A criticism is when I'm telling you, if I'm criticizing something, I'm like, I'm coming at you in a negative light. Like I'm upset, or I'm like, it's not necessarily a positive feedback for you.
Yeah. Actually, to echo that, I totally agree. Where the critique is like finer points within reviewing something, whether that's like for us, like a video or a photo, it needs a little bit of an edit or a tweak. And then you bring it to the next one where it's constructive criticism. I feel that's more of like a overall encompassing type of, it's not a critique, but it's like you're trying to help whatever the case is to get better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really pertain to like a specific item or something like that.
And maybe these are all like the same things, just like minute details, but they all kind of like push. I think if you look at them in the right way, they can push you in one direction or the other. If you're going to take it negatively, if you're going to take it positively, if you're going to just ignore it. Like there's many ways to deal with all of them. I know that, I mean, you guys are more active on social than I am, so I'm sure you receive critique.
I don't know. You just did a really awesome Instagram post that I saw where you just grabbed something out of the air and then you glued it to the camera.
Ooh, yeah. Do you want to know how many takes that took?
Little early. That's still pretty good.
The best I think I could.
That was solid. That was so good. That was real. Why are you so close?
But what I'm getting at is you guys probably receive a lot of criticism. I mean, I don't know. Do you?
Do you have anything to add on that?
Or critique?
I don't know if I really pay attention to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even if I do or I don't, I really don't. I'm like,
but
it doesn't take away the fact that you might
to it, unless
you
it's
might
like,
receive it.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
so what would your advice be then? If you like, I'm sure you've gotten it. Is your advice then to just ignore it, not deal with it? What's the best?
It depends on like what are you going to give that energy to, right? Like why would you give energy to people that are just like in a negative place or trying to bring you down? You know, like
sometimes
it's a reflection of themselves versus you,
right?
And so I don't really want to give energy to something that's like, okay, like you're dealing with your own shit right now, and like that's an insecurity or a projection that you have, and the fact that you would even think that you're in this place to like criticize somebody else on the internet. Like, let's be real. Like, it's on the internet. Like, it's like, why would you take the time to do that? Like, I wouldn't do that. So it's like,
there's so many like keyboard warriors out there that it's like the best thing to do.
Especially in the crypto space or like on Discord and everything, like there's so many people that can just talk and say whatever they want to say or whatever. You're managing that or like regulating that at one point, right? Like you would probably see a lot of.
There was like a time when we were first launching and I was like heavy in the Discord and it was just so much that I was
just
like,
a bunch of just talk.
Thousands of people coming at you talking, and then a lot of it was negative. A lot of it was positive. It's not one way or the other, but for some reason in our Discord, the negative was always like reaching out to me. And I remember that was my first time, because I don't have following like you guys, but that was my first time putting out a project and receiving critiques and criticisms and negative and positive energy. And it was a really like overwhelming couple of weeks for me. And
people have an investment towards it, so they have more of like a stronghold.
Their money's involved, so it's not that they're wrong, but I've never been in a position to receive it like that. So having to like figure out how to deal with that was one thing. I even talked to my boss Jeremy, and I was like, because he has a huge following and he deals with it every day. And I'm like, what do you do to handle all this, like this pressure, this negativity or whatever? Because it's like it was a lot for me at the time, and most of the time, like most of the feedback I get was just to ignore it. I actually took a step out of Discord and I'm not as active in it because it was affecting my mental health that much.
Really? Like with its specific comments and criticisms towards you, or more the projects? Not me specifically, because I am probably nothing. It's not me, but the fact, like, that's the first time I've worked on something that much and put it out into the world like that. Made yourself vulnerable, and then people are coming. I think that's actually a good distinguish, because like with the criticism, people are just trying to get their 2 cents in. They're just trying to keyboard warriors. I mean, they're just out there. Maybe they feel unheard. They have insecurities, and they're just trying to get something out there just to be noticed. Whereas like a critique would be more along the lines of like, in my world, this photo. Maybe if you had tried this would have been better. Like at least there's some type of, maybe a critique solution. Then it involves a solution. It has some kind of like advice to maybe how they would change it, whether it's right or wrong. At least that's something they're trying to benefit it. Whereas a criticism is just like, these guys are just coming in for blood. So for you, as like the person behind the lens, and you work with brands and all that, do you I'm sure get people trying to weigh in on what you're doing all the time.
criticism.
The three C's.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
Well, how do you handle it? Because it's easy to take it personally, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
in your line of work, you
and also
can't
creative
necessarily,
is
right?
subjective.
Yeah.
Too. It's like
Super subjective. And, you know, I'll say that I'm lucky that I haven't had to deal with a ton of criticism in terms of like my work and everything. But trust me, I definitely get the comments in just like random. I'll post a photo or a reel or something, and they're like, I don't like this. Or this could have been done in Photoshop. Why'd you waste your time? Kind of a thing. And I get that all the time. And it's just like in the beginning, when I first started all this, like I would actually take quite a bit of offense to it because it's like you're making yourself vulnerable. You're putting it out there. It is like my art is me. And so when I get that with just an intent to kind of hurt, like I took it personal.
Yeah.
But it, you know, after a while, like seeing it and just like kind of what you were saying, it's just like the insecurities and all that. Like I used to even like go to the page. I'm like, well, who's this person saying? Do they have validity in what they're telling me? Like, do I need to change it?
there's nobody that has validity that has put so much time and effort towards a skill that's going to come in and just blatantly criticize somebody else for no reason. Like,
but that took me a while to learn. You know, it was like when I first saw those, it made me feel like it's like, oh, what if this person's like a really good photographer and they're telling me that I'm doing things wrong? And I'm like, oh shit, I got to change the way I'm doing this. But then now now I ignore it. Sometimes I'll have a little fun with it and be like,
I think
say
that's
something
another
back.
thing I think is like the best thing to do is kind of make a joke out of it,
Yeah.
or like just react in a way where it's like,
yeah,
just let it rub off, like just let
Turn
it
their
roll off. It's
negativity
just,
into like some kind of positive. Like maybe there's a way to turn them into a fan.
I think even one of the times I think I even wrote like, it sounds like you're having a really hard week.
Did they respond?
I don't think they even responded, but I think I said something along the lines of that. They criticized something I did. It was just had no point or value to it. And I was just like, it sounds like you're having a really tough week. I'm sorry that you're going through things. Hopefully the next photo you'll enjoy even more. I said something like that.
There's a good point to respond to negativity. If you feel the need to respond, like try responding positively,
Yeah.
because
Don't feed into it.
I feel like
don't feed
responding
into it.
negative with negative is only
No.
gonna add
Fuel
more.
to the fire,
more
yeah.
to the world. We don't need more negativity in
And
the world.
let's be honest, like that kind of stuff, even if it's said in a joking way from the creator or whoever's responding, like it could be saved. You know, it could be brought back up. So even if you're saying it as a joke and you're saying just to be sarcastic or not, it's probably best you just not, right? Just don't put it out there for something to come back at you. That would be my little piece
Unless
of
it's
advice.
something witty or
And
that's
every once in a
something
while.
funny. Throw your 2 cents in there.
What about you? Well, you said you don't really feed into it, but have you worked on shoots and stuff where like the brand or whatever is like, I don't really like this. Can you?
Well, when you're working for a brand, it's a little bit different. Like I always try to take in all feedback into consideration and then evaluate like, okay, am I doing this? Like, am I actually doing this? Is this serving me? Like, is this actually like from the brand that's talking about it? Because if it's the brand, then it's like you have to remove your own ego and everything aside. And it's like you're working for somebody else.
Yes.
Like this is what they're wanting. And you have to take that into consideration and just adjust, right? Like you have to, but if it's like something that is of your own work, whether it's, unless it's like like you're getting hired for a brand deal, but if it's something that's like creative that you're just trying to throw out there and like throw something against the wall and see what sticks, like, okay, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you going to do?
I could take this in a little bit of a different direction. Today, I actually had a touch base call with one of my bosses, and we were just going through like what everyone on the team was working on, and there were some things I had questions about, and he kept being like putting it back on me. Well, did you do this to make sure it's going on? Did you do this? And he's like, not to put blame on you. He's not trying to like blame me for it, but the criticism is like, did you figure out a way to, or the critique was did you figure out a way to keep pushing this forward in a way that's not going to upset the team, or did you find a way, even if you felt uncomfortable or whatever? And he's like, I'm not putting blame on you, because just because this person didn't do it doesn't mean it was your fault, but could you have found a way to push it forward? And so like me learning how to take that blame, as he called it, even though I didn't look at his blame, was me learning how to see things in a different light that I can, one, learn from what he's saying and not get upset by it, and two, like use that to help push my team forward and make sure that we're all on track.
A lot of it's like, okay, well, how do you internalize that, right? Like, do you shut down, or do you allow yourself to like take the time to pause and be like, okay, what this person's saying is like valid. Let me take a step forward and be able to like, put that in a positive manner.
There was probably a time when I would have shut down and just been defensive, but I've like done a lot of like mental growth, like work on myself in the last couple of years. So I think that I'm able to receive it in a different way than if I was. It's a lot of how I think of myself. Like if I'm in a negative space and I receive a critique or a criticism, I'm going to internalize that differently than if I'm secure where I'm at and like how I'm doing my job, how I'm doing my work, what my life, like where I'm at in my life. I take it differently and I'm like, okay, I can do this better. And I think right now, for me personally, I'm in a better space than I would have been a couple of years ago to receive negative criticism or critiques or whatever it is.
Well, I think it also makes you, not just you, just anybody who is going to receive that type of, these critiques, because it's going to happen no matter what field you're in, whether you're in a creative field or you're an accountant somewhere. It's going to, that critique is coming. But I think what makes you as evolving into a manager and someone who's going to be in charge and make you a good boss is that you're able to take that critique and be able to like, okay, I'm listening. How can I be a little bit better? How can I maybe handle a situation differently? And I think that's super important, and which will be the differencing factor between someone who will always stay an employee and someone who will be a manager.
Like there's always this thing I've always thought, and maybe this is like a common saying, but like I never want to be the smartest person in the room. And as soon as I start to like act or think that I am, it's time to like evolve and like either look at what I'm doing or look at what the people around me are doing and try to like move on.
What the heck you doing with Chris and I then? Because we're definitely dumber.
That's not true.
One thing I will say is you guys both are like so driven. It does motivate me at the same time.
But I would say the same thing about both of you. Oh.
No, was I not invited to that?
No, that wasn't
I can see.
That was a good
I
one.
see now why.
But no,
I'm just
don't
sitting
you
here
want to surround
not in a muted color?
You want to surround yourself with people that are going to continually push you forward. And like if I'm the smartest person in my circle, how am I pushing myself forward? Like you want to constantly be challenging yourself, and not to say that the people in my circle are anywhere stupid or anything like that. I'm just saying like you want to keep evolving. That's not what I'm saying. You guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You want to keep evolving and pushing, and as long as everyone that you're surrounding yourself is of that mentality, you're going to be doing okay. But if everyone around you is just like stagnant, that's also what you're going to be doing too.
I think you brought up an interesting point. Do you think that, because we go through different stages in our life where our circles change. Yeah. Do you think there's ever a good time to just like maybe reevaluate who you're surrounding yourself with?
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
And
always.
then kind of evolve from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everything comes into effect, right? Like every detail matters. And I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, like I'll listen to Rob Dyrdek lately. He's been talking about that a lot. And he was talking about how he has systems in place in order to weigh like, here's his social life, here's his entrepreneurial life, here's his whatever, like fitness, whatever. And like he goes in and he calculates all these things, and at the end of the year he goes in and adjusts like based on, oh, this month I was doing this, like I was out a little bit too much, my sleep wasn't good. I think that all those details in life matter, and those are always being evaluated. I don't think it's just like one season. I think it's like you create that structure for yourself, and then you see if those people are in alignment, or if what you're doing is in alignment with where you want to be to hold yourself accountable.
And if someone in your life isn't in alignment, it's okay to like, move on from them forever or for a time being. Or
even just having a separate circle, if you want to call it that. So to me, it's okay to have your direct friend group who you're going to go and just hang out with. You're just enjoying their time. Yeah. And then you have a separate group, and maybe that's more the motivating people that you surround yourself with. Yeah. Because like I remember when I started getting into more photography and I started working with smaller brands, I got introduced to like really really smart entrepreneurs that were young, my age. And I was like, man, you guys are just doing some kick-ass stuff. And it really motivated me to like want to be a part of that circle and understand what the mindset was, how they're driven, because they were doing things that in my mind was beyond what I could do. So I was like, here, I'm here for it. Going back to when you first started out, was there a time like how you handled criticism or critique? Did you take it more personally when you first started out versus now? Did you evolve into that, or have you always kind of been, because you're a pretty easygoing guy?
Yeah, but that's taken time, right? Like that again, always goes back to sports. Like I've been fortunate enough to have really, really good coaches. Not only coaches, just good human beings in my life to be able to like guide me through those steps along the way. So when I was like, I don't know,
younger,
elementary school, middle school, like the formative years, I was able to see great examples of that and then implement that into
That's
my
why
structure.
he's so deep now.
Yeah.
I feel
I've
because
always
you
been-
developed your
I've been
emotional
like that.
intelligence like early on.
I had
Well, you had to deal with it
develop
your
that.
entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, sports is such a good
It's-
example
it's
because it's all
Like
critique.
when we were growing up, I was from a small town. We would always compete against the biggest cities, like Oakland, San Francisco, LA, San Diego. Like we were always we were always undermatched. So we would have to have that sort of mentality, and that's where it was developed. Because like you're going into it as an underdog, right? Like you have to be able to develop that at a young age. And so through those experiences, I was able to kind of just see that structure.
Yeah. And then be able to apply it to your everyday life and take it.
Because a lot of it's universal. It's not just like, oh, it's sports or oh, it's a game. Like it's a lot of it's life. Like that's the one thing looking back now, I'm like, damn, like all these lessons that I learned when I was younger, it's valuable and instrumental in my growth in terms of like how I live. Right.
Yep.
So.
And then I guess on the flip side of that is how you deliver it. Do you think with your understanding and growing up with sports, the criticism that you had to deal with during that stage, or the critique, coaches, whoever, do you think that's changed the way you deliver
I would
your
say
own
like,
critique to someone else?
I would also like to deliver anything with my emotions in line, right? So I don't ever want to react out of emotion, because that's more of like more of a like lower level way of thinking, so to speak.
So like pause and like take a minute.
Take a minute, reevaluate, like consider take in what's been said, and then deliver
instead of just reacting. Like think about it a little bit.
And then deliver with the intent or the thought behind it versus just like saying
reacting
something quickly and reacting.
I could see you being
and
good
saying
at that, taking your time, putting some thought behind the
because
words.
you never want to. You never want to burn bridges because of your reaction, right? That's not a good character trait to have. And so I feel like it's extremely important to work on like your mental mindset and how you handle criticism, and then being able to like acknowledge it, accept it, and then move forward with some sort of positive
how do
delivery.
you work on like your mental, like handling that? Like for me, there was a time when I was very reactive, so like learning how to step back was like a challenge for me. So whenever I was feeling like super emotional about even like in a work situation, I would go like step away and like go meditate for a few minutes, because that's like how I had to like reground myself. And now it's just become, you eventually grow into it, and it's not something you have to like step back and do. It's just like how you are. But how did you learn how to do that?
I would say same, like always take a step back, whether it's like remove myself from a situation, because if I feel like I need to remove myself for clarity, then that's what I'm gonna do. And I know like where my center of grounding is, so to speak. And yeah, I would say the biggest thing is removing yourself.
What about you? You're married. Does that ever apply to like?
No, we never fight. Ever. No. We always are just talk cool, calm, collected, 100% of the time.
I want to ask Anissa how this goes.
Get her on here.
Yeah, I want to get Anissa on here.
This son of a bitch. I mean, yes, I agree with you. In the ideal situation, take a step back. And I've definitely done that in my own personal relationship and in work, where I'm just like, you know what? I need to remove myself from the situation. However, I will say I do react with emotion sometimes. I'm not gonna say that I'm perfect, but I think what's important and what I usually do is if I do react based off emotion and I feel that it's wrong, I usually fess up and I'll actually apologize.
Usually.
I mean, sometimes I'm right. So
at the end of the day, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
So, and we're all gonna like make mistakes, and sometimes you don't have room to step away, and you're just kind of forced to confront things as they come at you, and that doesn't
especially when you're in more of a decision, at least for me in my world, I'm in a decision making position where sometimes I have to make decisions on the fly, or if something happens, I have to react quickly. I don't have that moment to step back and like try and collect, maybe consult with someone else. What do you think? I just have to make that decision. So there's definitely been times where I could have handled things better.
And that's something important now, because like on the internet, everything's going to be there for everybody to see. And so if you are growing up putting everything on the internet, well, it's like you're going to make certain
decisions that may not, they're not going to age well.
Correct.
Say that.
And so being able to fess up and have the confidence to say like, hey, I was wrong, I apologize.
Luckily, internet-based stuff is pretty easy to take a second, right? Because that's really up to you to decide to text back. That takes time. Whereas if something happens in the moment and it's verbal, like sometimes you just can't help but say it. If you're texting or you're writing a comment online just to be an asshole, like that's your fault. Hands down. Like I actually give no forgiveness for that. But in the moment, it happens. Totally. But like, for instance, going back to a shoot that I had recently, I reacted to a situation that it was someone wouldn't close the door when I was filming, and Johnny was there. So he may have heard this or not, but we were filming and it was a closed set because we were filming sound. Someone kept on opening the door. So I sat there and I was like, hey, can someone go stand by the door? Again, it opened again. And I was like, hey, make sure that door does not open. We're rolling sound. It opened again. On the third time it opened, I reacted. I lost it. I threw off my headphones. I ran across the whole studio, ran to the door, and I was like, don't open that fucking door. And it was one of the models, and he was just standing there just like, oh, like that. And he was like eating a sandwich, and he was like going in and out of the room, and no one had told him. And I ended up apologizing. But in that moment, it was, a bad decision. You reacted to the moment. It happens, but fess up.
That's valid.
Yeah. That is valid.
Take responsibility.
Yeah. Anyone that like knew me growing up knows I have a temper. I did have a temper. I was a little hothead. So learning how to step back is
knowing that. Have you adjusted now?
And I, even up until like working with Jeremy and Aaron, just like starting 2 years ago, I was still very reactive when I would work with them. But it literally was like stepping away, and when I was able to, like meditating in times when I was like angry. I don't even meditate that much anymore, but it took 2 years of like constant meditating for me to like kind of ground myself a lot, because like I really had a temper. And also like there was a lot of things that I was dealing with in my personal life that I had to address and get okay with and like move on from, and that's kind of like how I was able to tackle the temper, because until I was okay with my past traumas, I wasn't okay with myself and wasn't okay with my temper and all that stuff. So it was really like going deep into where I was emotionally and like in my life to attack that kind of a situation.
It's crazy you say that, because I've known you for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen that side of you. I don't think I've ever seen a temper.
You've never
pushed
your buttons.
Well, no, and you know.
Have you? Oh yeah, definitely. You're a button pusher. You've definitely seen my temper. That's for sure.
I like to just push out buttons all the time. Just like,
you always hit it right on the nose. One button, boom. It's like Chris.
Being into like fitness and all that stuff like keeps me grounded. If I don't, like, running is a form of meditation, so I need that to keep myself centered. And if I don't have that, I can kind of spiral. But like that's a lot of people I think that can turn to fitness and wellness to like keep themselves in check a little bit.
Yeah.
You're both into fitness.
No, for sure. Well, I'm sure. I mean, surfing. Like, I feel like surfing is like the best way for you to clear your mind.
Yeah.
Now.
I didn't have a lot of that when I first moved to LA, and it sucked. Like,
how else did you do it? Fitness,
but other outlets of like running or whatever. But I just thoroughly
Laser
enjoy it.
tag.
Laser
You look like-
tag.
I
You
think
look
it's
like a
like
big
just
laser
having
tag
an
guy.
outlet, like you said.
What happens when it's the heat of the moment, right? And Evan's with a client, and he says, they say, we don't like your Photoshop skills, Evan.
It's never happened. No,
but
yes,
what happens
that-
when you do react and you're like, fuck you, or whatever. And
well, I think you said it earlier where there's a difference when it's a keyboard warrior versus a client. You need to. I hold myself to a very high standard when it comes to dealing with clients and making sure that, because I am a person and things can be taken personal, especially in this world in creative art, musicians, I'm sure feel the same way. Anything that has to do with you putting yourself out there, it's very vulnerable. And like for me with photos and videos, like this is not just a job for me. This is part of my art form.
Yeah.
And so when someone gives me that feedback that I feel like they really don't like it, it hurts sometimes.
Yeah. Even if you like know that it's just someone's opinion, like that it doesn't matter, it still digs at you.
It does. And because like I'll send in a video sometimes that I think is good, or a photo, and it'll just be like, hi Evan, here are the edits, right? And it just like has this bullet point of things, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I've gotten used to that. But I remember in the beginning, it would be almost as if I wouldn't see it as edits. I'd see it as, I don't like this, make it better.
Yeah.
Because there was no like, oh, this is great, thank you so much. There was no fluff to it. It was just straight to the point. Now that I'm older, I've been doing this for a while, I get it. People are just on an agenda. They need to get things done.
And as someone, I send in edits like that all the time to whoever, whatever.
I know, you
creative.
make me cry back in the day when we worked at Threadbeast.
I never gave you a single
Actually,
edit.
you were pretty easygoing.
I don't think I ever gave you edits in those videos ever.
Usually, no, I don't remember nothing that stands out to the point of like, oh, Jenny was a really hard critic on all my work.
Well, I just never needed to.
I wish you could have seen me though on the back end of like how I would literally pace in my room if I didn't like a video. Like in my early days, like before I even sent it to you, I would spend so much time on those videos because I wanted them to be perfect for you.
Well, that's probably why I never had any
But I would be up and I'd be like pacing in the room like, this doesn't look good.
But that was like your early days of learning how to do it too, right?
I would show Anissa. Anissa's actually one of the hardest
She's a really,
critics.
Yeah.
And she'll tell me like, take love out throw that away. Just like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And she's like, she'll even look at me sometimes and be like, what do you need from me right now? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, do you just need me to be supportive or do you want my opinion? And
I think that is such an important way to communicate. Like if you can address like with whoever you're with in general, like, do you need this from me or do you need this from me? Because like, I can give you both. If you can like do both and like be okay with whatever.
Because sometimes, I mean, I know this is a little off topic, but sometimes in those moments, you're just proud of your work. And sometimes you just want to show it, to enjoy it with you. Yeah. It's like, we're not trying to win an Oscar here, but check this out. Yeah.
Or like my sister tells me all the time if her and her boyfriend are fighting or something, or if she's got an issue or something, and he'll be like, do you need me to help you find a solution, or do you just want me to like commiserate with you and like feel sorry?
Yeah.
And like a lot of times it's you just want someone to indulge you're feeling a certain way, and not sometimes you don't want a solution. Really, you just want to feel bad about it, or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need a bitch.
Yeah.
Like I do it all the time to him.
Like sometimes I just want to complain and no one to be like, here's how you fix it.
Yeah. I do think that I am one of those people that always tries to find a solution. So I've tried to get better at like exactly what you just said. Just what do you need? Do we need to find a solution, or is this just a moment for us to...
But you have to be open to receiving the solution. Like if I am given a solution and I don't want to do the solution, then I'm just wanting to bitch about it. Yeah. You know?
Taking it back to clients though.
Yeah.
Do the solution. Don't not do it. Don't just sit there and commiserate, because it is so easy to get caught up in the mental, like trying to putting blame on people. And I've seen this happen on sets where there'll be talk, and let's be honest, not every time client is 100% correct. Every time agency is not 100% correct. You're not 100% correct. So it's easy to start becoming like this little mean girl circle of like, oh, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. And then all of a sudden, it kind of transcends throughout the shoot.
Yeah.
And you can feel the negativity spread.
Yeah.
And that's such a toxic way to do a shoot or work environment or anything you're doing, because nothing's going to get solved.
Yeah.
And there's going to be constant battle and no good solutions will be found.
Yeah. You have to be able to recognize in those situations what needs to happen and act on it, and not just let those negative feelings spread around.
My biggest piece of advice for anybody that is trying to upgrade their shoots or anything like that, be noticeable and aware of the side talk and make sure that is not spreading into your shoot.
I think that's so, like, it's easy when you are in a leadership position to be like, I don't care about what's happening down there with my employees, and like if they want to talk, whatever. But that talk, and if it spreads and it's negative, leads to just like a very negative work environment, and then that just like
it feeds off of each other. It's
and then
a beast,
it never goes
man.
away.
I would say when I'm feeling that negativity, if there is a situation or a circumstance where that talk is going on, or like I feel like everybody's intuitive enough to feel negative energy, right?
Yeah. Even if you're not a part of the conversation, you can feel it.
Facing it with confrontation and just like ending it there is probably the best way to go about it in like a healthy manner. Because I've always felt like if there is anything negative going on, I would like to just address it head on versus like letting it spread, right? Because it's just going to continue to get worse. And I know some people aren't confrontational, and it's like understanding like each and every person is different, but confronting that, addressing the
just
issue
nip it in the butt.
Nip
it in the butt.
Ending it right
End
there.
it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Yep. And I've had to do that on sets where I'll even like I'll notice it, because a lot of times I'm working with people that are my friends, so they feel comfortable with me and they'll say the same thing, and I admit I fall victim to it. But once I start seeing it affect mentality and the overall vibe of the shoot, that's when I have to like pull it aside, say, hey, look, it's one thing for us to just kind of make little side comments. It's another thing to have ongoing conversation about it.
Yeah.
And we need to get rid of that. We need to get back to work, and we need to make sure that we produce the best possible product.
We were talking earlier off camera about even like in this podcast setting, how now I have to watch myself on a podcast, and like we're critiquing, we can critique ourselves and like figuring out how to like not criticize yourself and like learn how to like be like good to yourself, right? Like, isn't that another avenue of this whole conversation?
I think it's, you have to remove everything aside, like remove your ego aside, and like being on camera is one thing, and you're going to notice so many different things, but those are things that you can't control. And taking yourself out of the situation and being like, you know, like everybody is human. They all go through the same things on camera and whatnot. So like being able to remove yourself from that situation, I feel like is the best.
I think because what I'm hearing more, because I know when I watch myself on these podcasts, or if I do another interview or something, I do watch my mannerisms, and I try and notice if I'm doing something that I don't care for, and I think that's okay,
and
right?
Like, as long as you're looking at it in a way of like growth, Like in the beginning of the first few episodes, I noticed I said like all the time, and I probably still do, but my goal was to like stop saying it as much. Yep. But
same. I'll if there's a word or something, a phrase that I always say, I try and see if I can remove it, even off camera. And like was one of them. I noticed myself saying like, and when I just be in regular conversation, I would even say something and be like, see, I just said it again. It'd be, you know, oh, it's around the thing. And I just try and change that wordage so I can.
I've noticed since we started filming it, anytime I'm watching or listening to other podcasts or watching interviews or whatever, it's a very common thing for everyone to use that word. So I stopped being like so hard on myself about it.
But notice the people that don't use it
sound very smart.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So as humans, we are harder on ourselves. In general. So just keep that in mind. And then
no one's gonna be harder on you than yourself. Actually, I take that back. That's not true at all. We're trying to work in a chef kitchen. I guarantee you they're gonna be harder on you.
Wait, what?
I'm just saying. I watch a lot of cooking shows.
That was chicken, you twat. Okay.
I was gonna because I've heard the old adage of there's no harsher critic than yourself, And that is a saying.
There's, yeah.
I don't agree. I just don't. I mean,
just walk into a chef's kitchen?
Well, I'm just saying in certain circumstances, I don't think that upholds. Where I do agree that there are certain people out there that are their harshest critic, but there's quite a few people out there that don't criticize themselves. And then if you walk into a situation like a chef's kitchen, like a high end, have you seen the show Bear?
You're talking, no.
Yeah.
Great. Lit, that guy? Yeah, he's awesome. But would they have little flashbacks when he's working in a high-end, I think it's a fresh restaurant, and the chef, the head chef is just great, like yelling in his ear, and that's how it is.
Say yes, chef.
Yes, chef.
Say yes, chef. I'm so tough.
Yes, chef, I'm so tough.
Fucking yes, chef. I'm so tough.
Yes, chef, I'm so tough.
You are not tough. You are bullshit. You are talentless.
On that note,
And on that note,
that's
thank you for tuning in for the Decent Human podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, comment, give us your feedback. We'd love to hear your critiques and construction, criticism, so that we can know what we want to talk about next. All right, guys, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.